Interviewing with a startup can be incredibly exciting. It's a new growing company. There might be an opportunity for equity and fast growth. But interviewing with a startup is very different than interviewing with a massive, large company that has been around for a long time. In today's video, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do so you can nail your next interview when you interview with a startup. Let's go. My name is Ben White. I've been recruiting for 13 years and I've actually worked for both a startup and I've worked for a Fortune 500 company. And there are some very key differences that you're going to need to express in your interview if you want to be successful. So let's get into them. Now, the first thing you need to be doing when you are interviewing with a startup is you need to emphasize flexibility. It is very common in a startup for you to need to wear more than one hat. I mean, think about it. It's a small team. The team is going to grow, but they might not have the funds immediately to hire additional people right away. So it is commonplace for an employee of a startup to need to do multiple things. Maybe you have one job and there's extra responsibility that typically wouldn't fall under the scope of somebody in your seat. Well, they might need you to do that until they get to the point where they can hire another person. So when you're interviewing and they're asking you questions, if there is anything around flexibility or your willingness to go above and beyond or wear multiple hats, you want to embrace that enthusiastically. They need to feel that in the interview. If they feel any sort of trepidation around you needing to go above and beyond, wear different hats, be flexible with your day-to-day, they might feel while you're a great fit for the role, you're not a great fit for a startup, and you don't want them to reach that conclusion. The next thing that you need to do when you interview for a startup is if you have created or built anything in the past, now is not the time to be shy about it. So for example, let's just say you built a team. You got to hire the first person and you built it up to a team of 10. Well, if you're interviewing for a startup, that is incredibly exciting information for them to know, because there is going to be a lot of rapid growth, presumably in the future, if you were interviewing with a startup. And somebody who has built something from scratch, has scaled something, helped them grow from something small to something much larger, implemented different systems and procedures that would need to be implemented as a company grows. Well, that is showing them that you have the skills it's going to take to get them to the next level. So if you have done any of that in the past, you need to make sure you share that with them in your interview. You can do this in a variety of ways. They can say, why are you a good fit for this role? Or why are you interested in this role? Or give me an example of a time when, and you could probably weave that in there. But if you were interviewing for a startup and you have experience like that, do not leave the interview without them knowing it. Now, at some point in the interview, they might ask you questions around you putting in extra time. Like, hey, there are times when we might have to work a little bit extra as we're looking to scale and build this thing. A really important thing here is that any sort of hesitation, if you at all go, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I could do that, that's going to come off as this person does not want to do that, which is okay. If that's how you are, if that's your season of life, then maybe this isn't the right job for you. But if you do want to get hired at a startup and they ask you about putting in extra work as the situation permits, you're going to want to embrace that enthusiastically. Like, yeah, absolutely. I understand that there are times and there are seasons where I'm going to need to work a little bit extra, and I'm absolutely open to that. That's a way to embrace it. If they sense any hesitation, they're going to assume that that's not really going to work for you, and maybe you're not going to work for them as an employee. The next thing you need to do, if you have any experience with a startup or a smaller organization, you're going to want to play that up in your interview. You're going to want them to know that. Don't go through your interview just answering their questions and not explaining to them, by the way, previously, I was in a smaller startup-ish organization and I really enjoyed it. It was fun and it made every day exciting as opposed to coming in and just doing my job and in a turnkey environment. I prefer that growth, scaling, and excitement that I was provided in an environment like that and an environment like this. Look, they need to know that. If they feel like you're a great fit for them and you know what being in that environment consists of, that's only gonna bode well for you. So make sure you communicate it. Now, this next thing is incredibly important. If you have never worked for a small company before, or you have never worked for a startup, and maybe your experience looks very different, right? Like you've worked for Fortune 50 companies before, and that's all they see on your resume, but you still got the interview. That means you're there, you're in the game. You need to express to them that you are looking for a change and be like, look, I've been at big companies where their processes are all well defined, and that's great and all, but I'm really looking to move into an organization where I can be part of something more exciting. I want to build things, I want to create things. I like the idea of being involved in a nimble environment in which we can move quickly and we aren't weighed down by bureaucracy and processes. That's why I'm interviewing for this role. They have to know that even though you haven't experienced it, you are ready for it, you have the appetite for it, and you are pursuing it enthusiastically. If they feel like you are someone who has only worked for big companies and therefore you are not going to work here, that's not going to bode well for you as a candidate. So you need them to understand that while maybe you haven't done this in the past, you definitely want to do it in the future. You ever work with a recruiter and they send you a message and you go, hey, cool, that sounds like an exciting opportunity. What's the company? And they won't tell you? Well, I'm a recruiter and I've done that. People have asked me and I wouldn't tell them. And here's why. This video here, I answer exactly why a recruiter will reach out to you, but for whatever reason, not tell you who the company is. There is a reason. I'm done here, but I'll tell you right over there in this video. Go watch it.